it again. Let's see if we're up over on the YouTube. We'll wait for there we go. There we go. It is raining where I'm at. It is such a cold, rainy day here in Southern California, which, we need the rain, which I get. We do need it. So I can't complain too much, but it's really cold. Lucy is chilling in the bedroom, and I don't think she's going to get up throughout the stream. She's like, I'm good. It's cold. I'm going to stay curled up on the bed. That's actually how I know, living in a place like Southern California, I know it's winter when my cat wants under the blankets, which she has been recently. And that's how I know it's winter. Whenever Lucy's like, let me under here, I'm cold, that's when I know it's winter. That's how she's like the Punxsutawney Phil of my life, if you will. That's a Groundhog Day reference for anybody who's watching this who might not be native to the United States. That's the United States thing where this groundhog, they take this groundhog out of its cave, or out of its hole or whatever. And if the groundhog sees its shadow, we get 6 more weeks of winter. If it doesn't, we get an early spring. It's just, I don't know how it started. How did Groundhog Day start? Does anyone know? And by the way, I might have that backwards. Maybe it's like if he does see his shadow, we get an early. I don't even know. I never really paid that much attention because, I don't think there's any actual science to it. Maybe there is. I don't know. I don't really know. But and it's interesting that Groundhog Day comes up because there's a joke in my act that references Groundhog Day. And I did it in Australia. And it was as the words were coming out of my mouth that I realized I don't think Australia knows what Groundhog Day is. I don't think they have that. I don't think they're going to know what that is. And then they didn't. I had to tweak the joke or just not do it because I'm like, they don't, like the overall punch of the joke still lands a little bit, but something gets lost. Anyway, speaking of getting lost, Hunter Biden is one lost dude. Why? Because he gets $50,000 a month for doing absolutely nothing. That's why. And last night, something hit the blogosphere. I saw this as I was about to go to bed. Apparently, Hunter Biden was allegedly smoking crack in a D.C. area strip club. Now, thus far, this has mainly been reported by gossip outlets and right-wing outlets. That's largely who's been reporting this so far. Does that mean it's not true? Not necessarily, but just as a kind of disclaimer, that's who's been talking about this so far. And so is there a chance there might not be anything to this? Yeah, there's a chance. Or there isn't. My overall take is, here, let's go into the article. So this is from page 6. Like I said, gossip rags or right-wing rags. That's who's been reporting on this so far. Just so you know. Hunter Biden suspected of smoking crack in D.C. strip club's VIP room. Hunter Biden, who gets paid $50,000 a month to do absolutely nothing, and that's the real corruption here, was suspected of smoking crack inside a strip club where he dropped thousands of dollars during multiple visits. And this was at the same time he held a seat on the board of a controversial Ukrainian natural gas company, the Post has learned. The incident, which took place at Archibald's Gentlemen's Club in Washington, D.C. last year, represents the most recent alleged drug use by Biden, 49, who has acknowledged 6 stints in rehab for alcoholism and addiction that included a crack binge in 2016. Workers at Archibald's, located about 3 blocks north of the White House, said Biden was a regular there, with 2 bartenders and a security worker all instantly recognizing his photo and 1 worker identifying him by name. Security worker Rayko Petrovic said Biden, the son of former Vice President Joe Biden, yeah, we know this, will routinely hole up in a VIP room and drink during his visits. Okay, that's his business. Although Petrovic said the club had no issue with him, former Archibald's managing partner James Ritter said on one occasion in late 2018 was marred by suspicion of drug use. There was a smell of burning styrofoam in the VIP room. We told him nothing illegal can go on here. We didn't see anything illegal after he was spoken to. The smell stopped. VIP employees suspected it was crack. So, first of all, people who are having issues with drugs, who are struggling with drug addiction, they're not criminals. They're sick. They're sick. So if Hunter Biden does in fact have an issue with crack, have an addiction problem with crack, as much as I dislike Hunter Biden, as much as I dislike Joe Biden, I don't consider him a criminal for that. I consider him to be sick for that. And he needs treatment and he needs help. The corruption here is not the fact that Hunter Biden likes to go to strip clubs and allegedly has some addiction issues. The corruption here is that he gets paid $50,000 a month to sit on a board and do absolutely nothing on a gas company. And apparently that's no problem. Apparently that's not corruption. People in the corporate media will even refer to that as a conspiracy theory. They have referred to that as a conspiracy theory where it is a fact that Hunter Biden sits on a board and does absolutely nothing. So, this caught my eye because it was really trending on social media, and it hit the blogosphere last night. But my overall take, whether he has addiction issues or not, pretty much irrelevant. The corruption here is that he gets paid 50 grand a month to sit on a board and do nothing. If he has an issue with crack, that doesn't make him a criminal. It makes him sick. The fact that he sits on a board and does nothing, that's the corruption. That's the criminal aspect. There's a lot of very corrupt to the core things about the Biden family. Addiction issues he may or may not have ain't one of them. And by the way, it's not a conspiracy theory that dude gets paid $50,000 a month to sit on the board and do nothing. Establishment Democrats, take notes. It's not a conspiracy theory. It is a fact. The guy gets paid $50,000 to sit on a board and do nothing. And Elizabeth Warren can't say whether or not that's a bad thing. She doesn't know. Liz Warren doesn't know whether or not that she was asked directly about it. She goes, yes. First, she got it right. The same way she did when they asked her at one point, was Bernie cheated in the primary? And she was like, yeah. And then later she switched it up. She was like, wait. That's not, I wasn't allowed to say that. Same with the Hunter Biden thing. Would you let your kids sit on a board and get a bunch of money from a gas company for doing nothing? No. Oh, wait. No, I'm not supposed to say that. Hang on. Wrong talking point. I'd have to look into it. This is why I need to boycott Fox News, because I have no clue how to handle a basic question. If there's any confronting question whatsoever, I will not know what to do. My fiance said I might be dehydrated a little bit. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's really cold here. And it's wintry. Everything's dry and just whatever. So anyway, we'll see if there's anything to this. Like I said, so far, it's mostly just gossip things like Page 6 reporting on this, which I guess you can expect. And then like places like the Daily Caller. Again, that's not saying it isn't true. I'm just saying that's where this is right now. It was all around the blogosphere. My take on it, the corruption here is what this guy gets for sitting on a board and doing nothing. Any addiction issues he has, that's not criminal. That's a sickness. And I think we need to totally reevaluate the way we assess drugs in this country. I think we ought to do what Amsterdam does, where, again, not every drug is legal there. They break it into soft and hard. And soft drugs is basically stuff that grows for the most part. Pot, mushrooms, stuff like that. Then the harder drugs, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, you get the idea. And I'd imagine crack falls into that category as well. And, if you have a certain amount, they confiscate it. Or well, it's illegal, so they confiscate it. But if you have a certain amount, it's decriminalized. And, it's treated more as a sickness when people have issues. They're not treated like criminals, at least certainly not the way that is treated in the United States. All right, cool. Let's see here. What else is going on in the world? So we're going to end on some kind of positive stuff. That was vague, wasn't it? Because there's a holiday coming up. But first, we're going to go here. So I saw this yesterday. A website calls for the investigation of Amazon Ring. And what happened? Well, it got blocked by Facebook. A leading digital rights organization. Now, full disclaimer that the rights organization they're referring to is Fight for the Future, an organization that I am a big fan of, an organization that I have collaborated with multiple times and hope to collaborate with again in the future. We did a movement for net neutrality. We did a day of action for net neutrality. We also worked on a banned facial recognition campaign together. They're my favorite digital rights organization. So, just putting that full disclaimer out there. But a leading digital rights organization, Fight for the Future, on Tuesday said that Facebook was actively blocking its users from sharing a link to a webpage critical of Amazon that labels its internet-connected home security products, namely Ring doorbell cameras, as a threat to privacy, civil liberties, and security, which is an accurate description. Gizmodo independently confirmed that Facebook has blocked the URL investigateamazon.com. At the time of writing, Facebook users who attempt to share the link receive a message in response informing them that the page's content goes against Facebook's community standards. Created by the digital rights group Fight for the Future, the page contains links to several news reports about Amazon's home surveillance company, Ring, and its close partnerships with more than 600 police agencies across the U.S. We've reported on this before. Basically, what's going on, Ring, that's the camera you put outside your door, which, okay, a camera outside someone's door, you see who's coming to the door. All right, fair enough. The issue is when everybody in the neighborhood gets these things and law enforcement wants to have access to it, and there's contracts between Amazon Ring and law enforcement in a community, if they get access to everybody's camera, before you know it, an entire neighborhood is under surveillance. That's kind of the issue that's going on here. And Amazon Ring won't disclose all of its relationships and contracts with law enforcement. It won't disclose any of that stuff. It's been asked, and they just kind of shrugged their shoulders. Fight for the Future's confronted them, and they've gotten a very disturbing response, or lack of response. Okay, so here's some verbiage from the website. Amazon's ever-expanding surveillance empire threatens our privacy and civil liberties, especially in brown and black communities already vulnerable to racial profiling and heightened surveillance. The page asks users to sign a letter addressed to members of Congress, urging them to host public hearings with Amazon Ring CEO Jamie Smirnoff. Sminoff. I saw an R there. Jamie Smirnoff. Yeah, good old Amazon Ring CEO Jamie Smirnoff first. Jamie made sugary alcoholic beverages. Then Jamie moved on to being like, I want to surveil people. You know what? When you make sugary alcoholic beverages, the next step is surveillance. That's usually where you go next. Jamie Smirnoff is the name. I like Jamie Smirnoff. Let's go with Jamie Smirnoff. I don't know why I said that. I'm reading this stuff in real time, guys. This is Get Your News On with Ron. That's how it works. All right. So anyway, they're calling for public hearings with Jamie Smirnoff. Fight for the Future's deputy director, Evan Greer, sought to link the block to an aversion she professed Facebook holds against giant tech monopolies facing congressional scrutiny. Here's the quote from Evan. Whether this was intentional censorship, some technological glitch, or just a mistake made by an overworked human or robot, the end result is the same, she said. The campaign page that we made to give people a voice in their democracy is being blocked by a Silicon Valley giant. Added Greer, this underscores the fundamental danger of having a tiny handful of companies with so much power. This is why we need lawmakers to investigate and take meaningful action to rein in big tech companies like Facebook and Amazon. Amen to that. And I have a feeling this was intentional by Facebook. I doubt it was. I doubt it was just a tech glitch or anything like that. Because I've seen too many, for instances. I really have. I've seen, we would get email after email over on the Jimmy Dore Show, email after email of people who got similar messages when they would share Jimmy Dore Show videos. They'd share Jimmy Dore Show videos, and they would get these messages saying, this goes against our community standards. You can't share this. either a ton of people all around the world have organized to pull the greatest prank of all time on a YouTube show, and they're all really good at Photoshop, or it actually happens. One of the two. One of the two. And if you look at Facebook's community standards and all the things that Facebook has tried to pull off, now you can't, when you make Facebook ads, you can't list certain entities. That includes League Camp. You can't list League Camp as an interest when you buy a Facebook ad now because of RT. So, anyway. All right. So that's going on. There was a website calling out Amazon Ring, made by Fight for the Future, a digital rights organization, by the way, an actual nonprofit who has done very constructive things and has been doing the work for years. And Facebook just went ahead and blocked their page. All right. So we're going to go to Minneapolis. Well, actually, excuse me, not Minneapolis, Minnesota. Shouldn't just say the city, right? Should say the state. And this is shared by MnGirl1981, MnGirl1981. MnGirl, I'd imagine that means you live in Minnesota, which, by the way, we'll be seeing you in October. We're coming back to Minneapolis in October. Hope to see you then. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what's going on, because there is a water protector protest going on in Minnesota. Water protectors blockade Enbridge Line 3 tar sands pipeline. That's a clunky headline. This is from the Democracy Now! Water protectors blockade Enbridge Line 3 tar sands pipeline. So in Minnesota, at least 30 water protectors blockaded the entrance of the Enbridge Line 3 pipeline Monday morning. The proposed controversial pipeline would carry tar sands oil from Alberta, Canada, to a terminal in Superior, Wisconsin. Its path would cut through Minnesota, where indigenous communities have been fighting its construction, saying the pipeline would violate tribal sovereignty and contaminate the land and water. I wonder where they would get that idea. Why would they think that? Why? Keystone XL is going great, right? Isn't it totally safe and everybody's fine? And the pipeline brought a bunch of jobs and now everybody's happy? Didn't that happen with Keystone XL? Oh no, it leaked again. Keystone XL has leaked already. DAPL has leaked. And these companies, these oil and gas companies, if you really read between the lines, because the reports are out there, they have to report on this stuff, you are going to see droves of environmental environmental infractions. They had, when I did a media ecology study in grad school, which is absolutely as nerdy as it sounds, I did a media ecology study on fracking in the community of Western Pennsylvania, because that's where I was doing my master's degree, and there's a lot of fracking that goes on in that area. And I found out that there were over 2,800 environmental violations committed in a year by the oil and gas companies. You don't hear about them, though. Unless it's some huge spill, you don't hear about it. And even when that does happen, they deflect the blame. They blame a third-party contractor. That's what these companies do. 2,800 violations. And barely any of them get reported on. If that's going on with smaller pipelines in the Western Pennsylvania area, what do you think's happening with DAPL, with Keystone XL, a huge pipeline, where 20% of the country's water is in danger? It goes past aquifers that supply about 20% of the nation's water. And it's leaking. It's had another spill. And that's just what we're hearing about on the surface. And we're hearing about it on the surface barely. The corporate media barely talked about the Keystone XL pipeline leaking. In fact, I'm not sure if it's talking about it at all, but it happened recently. And now you have another, for instance, of people going out protesting, indigenous people protesting for the land that's rightfully theirs. And in Wisconsin, right near Minnesota, they now made that a penalty. That's a felony now, excuse me. It's a felony now if you protest on land that is rightfully yours if a pipeline's there, because they determine that pipeline, now all that land and all that pipeline and all that property, that's property of the oil and gas companies, baby. It doesn't matter that it was indigenous land for years and years and years. That it was indigenous land that, by the way, was stolen in the first place. Hey, Thanksgiving's coming up. It's land that was stolen in the first place. So you stole it in the first place, gave it back, and then stole it again to exploit the resources. USA, baby. USA. So best wishes to those water protectors. I wish them all the best. I know that it's not warm in Minnesota right now. I feel bad complaining about the cold, knowing that there are water protectors out there in Minnesota doing the work on the ground. So we'll see how this unfolds. Usually the oil and gas companies get their way, but we'll see how this unfolds. You know, you got to try. You got to fight back. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Min Girl 1981. And let's see here. This is from Tim. Thank you for sharing this, Tim. And this headline made me laugh. All right, so check this out. Jeff Bezos' vision of the future is basically Blade Runner. Now, full disclaimer, we got to go into this article because I have never seen Blade Runner. Never seen it. So I don't know what the deal with Blade Runner is necessarily. But here's what the article says. Jeff Bezos wants us to leave Earth and save ourselves by building space colonies. Now, by us, he just means fellow rich people. He doesn't mean everybody. Some people are going to get left behind. We want to stay on Earth. I agree. I do. I want to stay on Earth. Build a viable future. Yeah, I'm a fan of that. And make Jeff Bezos leave. Yeah, I'm cool. Jeff Bezos, go to space. Go, have at it. Go to space. Build you and Elon Musk can live in space together. Just the two of you. And the rest of us, we'll stay here. Why would you? Like, what? He has all that money. That's all he thinks to do with it. Let's go to space. Let's go to space. There might be from some cheap alien warehouse labor. Let's go to space. In May, Jeff Bezos unveiled his long-term vision for humanity's future. During an hour-long presentation in Washington, D.C., the Amazon billionaire described how humans will need to leave Earth if we're going to maintain growth and growth in the future. For Bezos, our future is a series of free-floating space colonies called O'Neill cylinders in close proximity to Earth. This proximity, he argues, will help the planet to avoid exceeding its capacity as the population swells into the trillions. Such a development, argues Bezos, will allow us to produce thousands of Mozarts and Einsteins. But what about everyone else? Okay. Mozarts and Einstein. Okay, I guess he just means geniuses. I guess he just means, well, if we're going to colonize space, we're going to need geniuses to do it. Couldn't we have geniuses to cure cancer? No, but we're going to space. Well, what about like giving everyone healthcare? Why don't we start there? Why don't we just give it? Dude, we're going to space. What about like living wages? You barely pay your warehouse workers a living wage. We finally got it up to 15 thanks to Bernie Sanders, but it's still disgusting what you do. And he said, yeah, but we're going to space. We're going to space. What about trying to combat climate change? We're going to space. We can destroy other planets. We can destroy. Why don't we be a better steward of this planet? No, there's other ones to destroy. That's why not. I have billions of dollars. I could end homelessness. I could end poverty. I could make sure everyone has health care. I could give everyone living wages. That works for my company. But I want to go to space because I'm a sociopath. Jeff Bezos is a sociopath. I mean, that's just definitionally true. You don't become a billionaire unless you screw a bunch of people over. Mechanically and methodically. Full stop. And anyone who thinks there should be billionaires is wrong. There shouldn't be. There should be protections for people so that doesn't happen. Because nobody ethically earns $1 billion. It does not happen. And they certainly don't ethically earn hundreds of billions of dollars. It does not happen. If you have an idea like Amazon and you get rich from it, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Jeff Bezos, if there were protections stopping Jeff Bezos from doing a lot of the stuff he's done, he would still be rich. He would still have this very successful company. He would still be rich enough that he would never want, that his family would never want. But the workers would be treated fairly too. And the people who helped him get there, they'd be treated better too. So yeah, he'd still be rich. No one's saying you can't get wealth if you come up with a great idea. If you invent something great, if you have a company, it takes off and you're financially successful because of it. That's great. But you know what? You shouldn't be buying a $172 million mansion while the people who help create your wealth are living in their cars, like what happened with the CEO of Uber. That shouldn't happen. But Jeff Bezos wants to colonize space and make it like Blade Runner, which is a movie I need to see. I need to see Blade Runner. It's on my short list, I guess. Is it worth it? I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Blade Runner. Should I see it? Should I not see it? You know me. I'm not that good with movies. All right. Let's go somewhere else like we do. So this is shared by Christina, which Christina, thank you for doing this. So Jeff Bezos wants to go to space. That's what Jeff Bezos wants to do. He wants to just colonize space so we can destroy other planets. But fortunately, there are some people that still kind of want to save this planet. And the climate strike is happening this coming Friday. This is from the Ecosio blog. Christina shares this. And this is how many climate strikes does it take? On November 29th, Fridays for Future is calling on everyone to join the next global climate strike. A climate strike again? I'm afraid so. If we want to pressure governments to bring about the systemic changes needed to avoid an environmental collapse, we need to make ourselves heard. Here are just three of the most pressing climate issues affecting the entire world right now. The U.S. has withdrawn its Paris Climate Agreement. From the Paris Climate Agreement, Australia is burning, yet the government won't act. California is burning too. The world's largest multilateral bank would be financing fossil fuels if it weren't for public pressure. All right, so the U.S. has withdrawn from the Paris Climate Agreement. We know that this happened under Trump. The Paris Climate Agreement at this point is not enough. The UN has a proposal out there that we covered on this show to cut greenhouse gas emissions by 7.6% every year. So 7.6% one year, then another 7.6% the following year. And by 2030, we should be completely off fossil fuels. That's what the UN is proposing. So the Paris Climate Agreement, it was great at one point in time, but now it doesn't go far enough because we're too far behind schedule. Now, the U.S. should still be in it. It's not like Trump got off of the Paris Climate Agreement because he was like, it doesn't go far enough. No, he got off of the Paris Climate Agreement because he doesn't think climate change is a thing, because he's a denier. But anyway, you get the idea. Australia is burning. So in short, the United States needs to be a better leader in this. That's the real catastrophe here. The United States needs to actually be a leader in climate change, because we need true systemic change where these companies who are polluting the planet and destroying it need to be reined in. If they're not reined in, everything else is for nil. We can do all we want as individuals, and we should recycle. That's great. Compost. That's great. Try to reduce your carbon footprint to the best of your ability. That's great. That's all great. That's all important. But the huge polluters of the earth are these companies, the oil and gas companies, Amazon, Walmart. If they're not reined in, it's not going to be enough. That's why, Graham and I were talking about this yesterday on his political vigilante stream. This is one of the, for instances, where it's the top to the bottom. We need significant policy changes. And we need to rein in these companies. Australia is burning. Its government won't act on the climate crisis. And the European Investment Bank would still be financing fossil fuels if it weren't for public pressure. This I'm not as familiar with. Let's read into this. The European Investment Bank is the house bank of the European Union and is therefore owned by all members of the EU. Because of their combined economic power, the EIB is the world's largest international public lending institution. In the past 6 years alone, the EIB awarded the fossil fuels industry a staggering 13.5 billion euros, which is worth more than a dollar. So that's over $13 billion. Last week, the EIB made a long due announcement that from now on, it will no longer lend money to fossil fuels companies. That's good news. And this is from last week. This article is from a couple days ago, so this was recent. The European Investment Bank made a long due announcement that from now on, it will no longer lend money to fossil fuel companies. By changing its so-called energy lending criteria to exclude fossil fuel projects, the EIB is finally aligning with other legal commitments made by the EU, such as compliance with the Paris Climate Agreement. Isn't that good news? Definitely. But what is remarkable about the decision is how it came about. The EIB is not completely independent. Any policy or proposal by the EIB needs to be approved by every single member country. In other words, the EIB is powerless until its members decide to vote. Behind the scene, Germany's Minister of Economy and Energy, as well as the Minister of Finance, were both blocking the EIB's proposal to no longer invest in fossil fuels. Public pressure by environmental organizations, including Fridays for Future, drew so much attention to this that even the New York Times called the German government out on its blockage. I like that. Even the New York Times mentioned this on its blockage, finally forcing them to give in. Nevertheless, as groups like Bankwatch and Fossil Bank show, there are still dozens of other banks lending much larger amounts to the fossil fuel industry, making the EIB seem like a small player in comparison. All right. Well, hey, that's a start, and hopefully other financial institutions will follow. There were people at the top that tried to stop this, but they couldn't stop it. All right. And there's going to be a climate strike again this Friday, which, one thing you can do, don't participate in Black Friday. Black Friday here in the US, that's a thing where the day after Thanksgiving, you go out and you buy a cheap TV. That's essentially what Black Friday is. Hey, you know what? Participate in the climate strike by not doing anything for that, by not buying anything. And by not buying anything from these polluting companies. What are some of the most polluting companies in the world? Amazon, Walmart. There you go. All right. So, and Christina, thank you for sharing that. Now, this is shared on Twitter by #FreeJulian. And thank you for sharing this, Free Julian. And this is kind of a cool story. I kind of like this. We're not going to read the whole thing because it's long, but this is kind of about hiking. And, Free Julian shared this. And I think especially with the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States occurring this week, this is kind of a cool mention. And I wanted to kind of go through this and kind of leave you guys with this. Listening at the Breathing Place, Tomokani State Park. What does an ancient Native American community say about public and private places, the environment, and our culture? This is by Amy Sterling Castle. A couple weeks ago, I took a rare day off for a rare opportunity, a hiking trip to California's Tomokani State Park. Despite being a fifth-generation Californians who's hiked many of the state's trails, I'd never heard of the park before. A couple of Google reviews for Tomokani say there's nothing there. This is a good thing because there's no real security at the park. Anyone could drive out there, circumvent the gate, and wander around. Tomokani means winter home in the language of the Kawazu people who lived there for thousands of years. Walking quietly, I begin to feel the way the Kawazu people lived before the Europeans came and set up businesses as diverse as cattle and cement, and pastimes like lynchings and massacres. I listen in wonder as our guides explain the hills, now sparsely dotted with juniper and sagebrush, had once been covered in native oaks. The oaks had been felled for wood use by European settlers. Somehow they'd survived thousands of years by occupation by the Kawazu and even more ancient Native American people. In other words, the native oaks were there for thousands and thousands of years when the natives were there. Then the Europeans came in and they destroyed everything. And I think that's a really cool message. I think that's a really cool blog that was written. And Free Julian, I thank you for sharing it. In this part of the world, there is a lot of hiking and there's a lot of, native land. And when you go on hikes in these places, I've been hiking in different parts of California. I've been hiking in Sedona, Arizona. You really do kind of feel a oneness. I've been hiking in Flagstaff, Arizona, too. I don't know why I need to name all these places, but, whatever. You really do feel a oneness with the earth, and you really do feel, I don't know if spirit's the right word, but you kind of feel like you feel the history of the land. And it does go through your mind that it's like, man, there were Native Americans here for so long, and they were stewards to this land. And then this land was taken from them in a very gruesome and violent way. And you kind of feel that history and the brutality of it and the pain from it, but also the just kind of beauty of the land, and how the natives saw that beauty and embraced that beauty and lived that beauty. And it's a heavy thing. It's a very heavy thing, and it makes you realize how small you are in the world, and I mean that in a positive way, where it's like you realize that this is such an infinite universe, and we are just a speck of dust upon a giant fly, to quote a song by Kimya Dawson. Which, look up Kimya Dawson. She's great. She's the artist of the day, Kimya Dawson. She's amazing. But it humbles you and it grounds you. It really does. Just like being in the ocean or something like that, or seeing a great snowfall. I mean, some people, they love that, seeing snow in the mountains, or just seeing snow in your backyard, whatever it may be. And I guess if I had one thing I would encourage everyone to do this holiday season is to kind of embrace that. If you're able to go on a hike, depending on what part of the country you live in, I encourage that. I do. And if you can't, that's cool too. Do what you can do. But yeah, I think that article brings up a good point. And I'm going to try to hike this area in California, see how close it is to me, and maybe I'll get to check it out at some point. But let me see what you guys are saying. By the way, we're going to have a guest, Right Brain Studios, which is an amazing studio that made a movie that's free on YouTube that talks about how Bernie was screwed over. It covers the primary in 2016. We're going to have Kevin from Right Brain Studios on at 11:30 Pacific time, 2:30 Eastern time. So I'll see some of you guys very soon. Balthazar, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Jamie Smirnoff Epstein is Smirnoff Ice. Nice. Ron, the way they treat the Earth, you'd think that they have another one to go. And yes, you really need to see Blade Runner. All right, Cardinal Sin, thank you for the super chat contribution. Cardinal Sin recommends Blade Runner. All right, got one recommendation. Trying to be fine, thank you very much for the super chat contribution. Watch the director's cut of Blade Runner. I'm curious to know if someone who has never seen the original will understand the plot without the narration. Report back, please. I will try to do that. All right, so I guess the director's cut doesn't have narration. The other one does. That's what I'm guessing. All right, cool. I'll try to check it out. So that's two recommendations. Trying to be fine, Cardinal Sin. Thank you very much for the super chat contribution. They recommend Blade Runner. Guys, tour dates, I got them. December 13th, Ventura Harbor Comedy Club in Ventura, California. December 14th, the Dojo of Comedy Sycamore Tavern in Los Angeles. What's going on those two nights? Graham Melwood and I are premiering our 2020 shows. We're going to be touring a bunch in 2020. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the world. We're premiering those shows right in Southern California, where we live. Ventura, December 13th. Los Angeles, December 14th. Tickets available at ronplacone.com. What 2020 dates are confirmed already? Well, I got a special announcement, but here we'll go down the list. February 8th, Tucson, Arizona. February 29th, San Francisco, California. March 12th, Orlando, Florida. March 14th, Miami, Florida. And we should be getting Tampa really soon. So hold tight, Florida. We should have another date for you soon. April 10th, I'm going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. April 24th, Seattle, Washington. April 25th, Portland, Oregon. And just confirmed, July 11th, Chicago, Illinois. And July 12th, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Milwaukee, Chicago, we're coming. Those are just announced yesterday. Tickets are available now at ronplacone.com. If you want to support this show on the sustainability end, please do consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/ronplacone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content. You get a patrons only stream once a week where I announce a stream and patrons send the topics, and I just respond to things the patrons say, and you can only see that replay on Patreon. You get exclusive stand-up clips not available anywhere else. You get dialogues between myself and Lucy before they get illustrated. All kinds of fun stuff for give what you can level. You get my album available for download, which, by the way, I'm going to be making another one in 2020. That'll be up there too. That's all for give what you can level. Patreon.com/ronplacone. And you help me expand this show. I want to do more streams. I want to have more guests. I want to do more interviews. I do need your help to do that. I want to build a municipal broadband coalition nationwide via this show. I need your help to do that. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. Thank you so much for the stories, Christina, MinGirl1981, Tim, and #FreeJulian. Thank you so much for the super chat contributions, Balthazar228, Cardinal Sin, and Trying to Be Fine. And oh crap, are you kidding me? Wait a second. All right, that thing's happening again. That thing where it's warping, where it's shifting. What's going on? Wait a second, guys. Hold on. Something weird. Lucy says meow. I say peace. You know the drill. We will not be having a show tomorrow because of the Thanksgiving holiday. We will be back next week. So I will see you then. I fly back home on Tuesday, so we'll probably have a show on Wednesday. So we'll be back next week. Have a happy holiday. What is going on? Hello. This is Chaos Agent 11. As you can see, I hijacked stream. I can do that now. All contributors can do that now. I hijacked stream from John or whatever his name is to tell all of you that I know that you in the United States have the Thanksgiving holiday coming up. The holiday where you celebrate the fact that you stole land from a bunch of people who were here first. What an interesting holiday. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, I'm having my own Thanksgiving holiday. This is my show now. The other dude was here first, but it's my show. Welcome to Get Your News On with Chaos Agent 11. I'm your host, Chaos Agent 11. This is my show now. Just so Jeremy or whatever his name is doesn't panic, the show will be back next week. It is not going to happen tomorrow because there is a holiday in the United States, but he will be back next week on Wednesday. There will be clips in the meantime, and of course, the podcast will come out as planned. I should know this because, again, it's my show now. I have taken over a show. If you're going to argue with your family this holiday season, do it. Do it. Argue with them. Argue with your family. Why? Because it's chaos. And I like chaos. Argue with them about politics. Maybe they think Kamala Harris is great. Maybe they like my dude, Joe Biden. Argue away. Happy holidays. What the holiday? Hey, let's celebrate that we stole stuff from people who were here first. All right, and I guess whatever the send-off is, the black cat says goodbye. She is sleeping. She is tired because it is cold. You call this cold. This is not cold. Have a good weekend.